Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to episode 43 of Wings, Beers, and Tears, your DMV Sports podcast. Well, it has been a while, but cheers, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Cheers. Who are you guys?
I know. Holy shit, man. Bunch of strangers here. So needless to say, our last episode was about a month ago, which coincided with the current shit show that we are under. So we've kind of leveled off like everybody else, and we're back to talk actual sports. So we're not going to bore you with any details or anything like that because you can just open up Twitter and find all the mess that you want to see. So instead, we are going to focus our attention to next week's NFL draft. Honest to God, like up-to-date live sports for the first time in a month, basically, right?
Yeah, about 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
We were on the air the night the NBA did their thing, and
that's exactly right.
The conference tournament started shutting down, and next day there was the NHL. And so
wasn't it weird how fast all that happened too? We were sitting here on the mics, and we're like, "Man, this shit's going to get weird." And inside of 48 hours, everything that we knew as far as major sports was done.
Right. I mean, I didn't listen to our last episode, but we were remarking about how the Big Ten had just gone from fans to no fans, and how this was getting out of control, and we sort of really didn't understand what was going on. I certainly didn't understand the scope of what was going on.
No. And in all honesty, we still don't. But bottom line is onward and upward. It's springtime. Shit looks like it's going to start happening around the world in different phases. It's going to be different. It's going to be weird. But I, for one, am definitely looking forward to the day when I can sit down on my couch and actually watch a real live sporting event again. You know, I do miss that.
And just so everybody's aware, we are sufficiently apart from each other.
Yes, we are.
We everything has been wiped down and sanitized and all that bullcrap.
And we're ruining everything. Sorry.
And I used to mock people when this first started about I can't believe people wearing masks. And this is so stupid. And now I'm afraid to be around anybody. That's a phobia I need to get over now.
Different world, man. I mean, brave new world, right? I mean, this is playing out very similarly to that famous classic novel. You know, I mean, it's bizarre, it's different, it's weird, and I'd be the first one to tell you I have no idea what lies ahead.
We need sports, though.
We do on a number of different levels, and that's why. So let's just right off the bat. I was telling Jerry before you got here, Jay, that so the very first professional sports league that already has dates in place to begin play again is the Bundesliga over in Germany. Okay. And they've already gotten the teams back to their respective training facilities, and they're quarantining them, and they're testing them. I think it's 3 times a week they get tested, and the only people at the facilities are the workers, the players, and everything else. And they're doing their training camp right now, and then they will resume May 15th, and the goal is to play the remaining 8 league games, and they'll play them at neutral sites on TV, of course, because that's what they need. They need
TV's
the TV.
Driving everything.
Absolutely right.
All these sports.
Yep. So it'll be no fans for the rest of the season, obviously, but they already have the locations, the logistics, everything in place. So barring any sort of like government mandate that says they can't do it, and by the way, the government is on board there. They're the
because they need it too.
Exactly right. They're the ones kind of pushing this along, and that's essentially the NFL there in Germany. I mean, right, Bundesliga absolutely just prints money like the Premier League does, like the Spanish leagues and all that kind of stuff. So they have to have it. But here in the States, they've got the I think Fox Sports has the contract with Bundesliga, and I think ESPN does as well. So you're going to start seeing those games in May on ESPN, on Fox Sports, and
ratings will be out of the roof.
Absolutely. I mean, shit. Even you don't like international soccer at all, Jerry.
I'll watch it.
But if I'm like, hey, dude, Dortmund's playing Bayern at 10 a.m. on Saturday, you're gonna be like,
and it's live.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, awesome. Yeah.
Well, I would think also they've already been talking about expanding the current contract to run more games, at least until other sports come back, because I don't think they only show 1 or 2 Bundesliga games a week right now.
Oh yeah, that contract's going to be. They're rewriting the contracts midstream as we speak. They have to.
Yeah, it's only really EPL that has sort of a full slate right now.
That's correct,
and that could probably even expand if they come back. So.
Yep.
Well, that's the trend, boys. That's what's going to happen.
That's right.
They're going to. I think with the NBA and NHL and certainly baseball, that's probably the toughest because the season's so much longer. It
is, but logistically, I actually heard Major League's the easiest because it's an outdoor sport,
right?
And in Arizona, you have so many facilities that are major league size parks that they can basically bring the entire league to Arizona.
I meant
or Florida.
I mean, you hear people complaining, and first of all, every decision is going to have a reaction.
Oh, absolutely.
People are going to criticize anything they do, and any decision that is made to bring back sports because you're affecting the health of the players. I get it,
of course.
But, NBA is they're stopping paying people in May, and if those players want to get paid, they're going to have to sacrifice being quarantined in a deluxe plush location, right?
Right.
And though everything will be comped, and they're just going to have to play the games and be away from people.
Yep.
If they don't want to do it, then they don't get paid.
Yep.
That's the sacrifice people make. It's not a huge sacrifice. To me, it's crazy that people. I mean, that sucks that if you can't see. The reason I said baseball is the most difficult is because of that reason. If you go a couple months without seeing your family,
It's like every single day you're doing stuff. Well, I think what you'll see, I don't know if you call this on the positive side, is there won't be that much travel, if any. They can play, 3 out of 4 nights, from now till the end of the season, including playoffs and all these sports. Baseball are talking about doing 7-inning doubleheaders.
Right.
So I think you can knock these seasons out quickly, and still provide that entertainment. People get paid, TV money gets paid, and and everybody's relatively happy. It's just such a different landscape. None of this 3 weeks to play a 7-game series in the NBA kind of thing.
The biggest challenge is not the pro leagues; it's the colleges. If there is no college football season, I would say 75% of schools will cut all female sports. They will cut all non-revenue sports, things like wrestling, because they can't afford it, because football foots the bill for all of that. People don't understand that college football, like at Penn State, football pays everything. If you don't have football, then you don't have any other sport because you're in bankrupt. I mean, I saw some stat on LSU in 2016 or 17 or 18, I can't remember which year it was, that the football program made a $70 million profit or $60 million profit, and everything else was 23 million negative.
Isn't
even
that crazy?
basketball.
And that's after paying the players, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
but it's like that old line from the program, right? When they're arguing and he goes, "When was the last time you saw 65,000 people show up to see a chemistry experiment?"
Right.
It's kind of like you might not like it, but because we have 65,000 seats and because it's filled 6 times a year and because of the TV ratings, all that other shit
it
flows.
pays for everything.
It pays for everything.
And just read the Washington Post article last week when the athletic directors were like, I can't even fathom.
Right.
That's why they will have a college football season in the spring if they need to, or if I see.
That's
what you mean.
actually what I could see happening. Basically, make it a spring sport,
or just start it in November.
Right.
And I'm sorry about basketball; it sucks.
Right.
But I mean, if you're in Wisconsin in a night game in January, I don't know if that's great, right? But I can see them having as much of a season as they can, because that's the money,
right?
And that funds every other non-revenue sport. Otherwise, everything's gonna be club, and you can't complain, right?
No, you can't at that point. No, you're right.
Now, I don't know if I know I wouldn't be extremely comfortable going to a game, sitting amongst a bunch of people if there's not some sort of medication. A vaccine may be too ambitious, but some sort of medication. If they can do a medication that takes away the respiratory stuff and makes it like you get sick for a couple of days, but it's manageable and it's not that bad, okay, that's
right.
then you can start doing it.
Sure.
Like the flu. You get the flu, Johnny has the flu, he can't play today, he'll play next week, but they don't cancel everything.
Right.
Until they get to that point, though, I just can't see people coming back to the stands. And in college football especially, they make a lot of money from people in the stands.
A ton.
Oh,
gate sales are everything because these stadiums they're old, many of them, and they have the little tiny bleachers. I mean, you've been to South Bend, you've been to Notre Dame, Jeremy, and you walked in, you're like, how are they going to get 90,000 people in here? It just doesn't look that big. But
because bleachers, you can fit 95 people in a row.
Goddamn right, man. Sardines, just pack them in, and that's going to be interesting. But you make a good point, Jerry. I mean, what we remember as normal in sports, even at the local level, your kids cheerleading, hockey, soccer, you name it. None of that happens until there is medicine and ultimately a vaccine.
Right.
And I know that that's ambitious, but it has to happen.
Well, it's common. I mean, I have faith in the smart people in this country. If they're motivated and they're set in the right directions and their goals are legitimate, and there's obviously going to be abuse and everything. I tend to believe that we will find a medication that somehow before the fall that is helpful. The question is will people get out of the way and let it happen if it's there, or they? I mean, there's so many. The politics of everything drive me crazy. Yeah. But I continue to be optimistic.
I'm with you,
but I think we need a diversion. As just something. I mean, I'm so happy they didn't. There were people pushing back, like all these writers are pushing. How are you having the NFL draft? Why wouldn't you have the NFL draft? Are you kidding me?
This thing was made to be done remotely.
Yes.
I mean, the platform, everything is there. And I told Andrea last night, I said, every year with the draft, I could take it or leave it. I want to see what my teams do, but I'm not hinging on every pick. I'm going to be. Next Thursday, I got my popcorn, I got my beer, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is real live sports, even though it's in a draft setting.
But 10 years ago, it was at the Hilton in New York City with crazy people like me watching, right? And you always have the Jets fans with their fans, they'd boo every pick, right?
Of course, yes.
But that was nothing.
Right.
I mean, there was nobody there. Nobody really followed it. You just read about what your team did.
Yep.
Right. It wasn't an event until the last decade. That's when it became an event.
Agreed. Well, when they went to the 3-day format, where because it's round 1 Thursday, rounds 2 and 3 Friday, and then all day Saturday with all the no names. Although Saturday is where I think you're going to see a lot of key guys go for teams like the Skins and the Ravens.
Which I can tell you this year, boys and girls, I know all the fucking no names. Good. I know so many people about this fucking draft. It's ridiculous. I'm like, oh my God, it's Jim Bowen, guard, Kentucky. 2-time All-American, favorite color's green.
Nice guy.
Doesn't have good footwork.
He's not Wes Martin, but
Wes Martin. I wonder what that guy could eat Corona.
Probably already has.
Yeah.
He's like Major. He could just eat anything and be fine. Yeah. Steel stomach. Yeah.
Our dumbass dog. Worst Rottweiler in the world.
Oh, he's such a sweetheart.
That's awesome.
How's he doing during quarantine?
He loves it. People are home all the time.
Dude, our dog, he is the happiest dog in the entire world. He prances around all day. Oh, great, you guys are here. Wonderful. How many walks am I getting today?
Major will attack me, and just me, if I only pet him with one hand and I have one hand free. He looks and he'll growl a couple times, and then he scares the absolute shit out of me. He's never bitten me, but he's he is so spoiled. So spoiled.
All of your attention, Dad. Every last
he's
bit of it.
This other hand, fat ass. Come on. If you're going to do it right. I mean, don't waste my time.
So speaking of the draft, let's get right into it. So, I mean, are you guys as equally as excited that it's actually giving us it's reason for optimism on so many fronts? First of all, it's a live event on ESPN. It's going to be done production-wise correctly. They don't fuck around. All right.
Roger Goodell's going to be in his cousin's basement because his basement looks like a friggin' waterfalls and shit in it.
I picture Goodell looking like Hugh Hefner, in his basement smoking his pipe.
I guarantee if he did it in his actual basement with his servants around, he would get so much backlash. So he's going to go to his cousin's house who works on the subway. He's not going to have any makeup on. His hair's going to be disheveled. He's going to try to look like one of us. He's such an asshole.
Well, he's got the keys to the kingdom right now because I mean this is it. This is the one event we're going to have until you see what other leagues are going to do to roll out the beginning of games with no fans. Right. That's essentially what it's going to be. Hey, before we get to the draft, real quick, let me get your opinions on NHL and NBA because I think whatever model one uses, the other's going to piggyback off of it. And it's going to be something very similar. At its core, you've seen 100 different proposals and start dates and this and that. It sounds like the only way to do it is to find, for lack of a better term, let's use the NHL model. You'd have all the West Coast teams quarantined together around a handful of small rinks. I've heard Minnesota or North Dakota.
North Dakota, Saskatoon,
right?
New Hampshire, maybe.
And so what you would do is you'd essentially have those 16 teams be tested, staying within at whether they convert hotels into team only areas, whatever, and they would play the games at a series of smaller rinks, and you would have announcers, officials, and team staff.
Be like the Olympics.
Kind of.
Like Lake Placid.
Yeah, kind of.
You really don't need announcers. They can do all that stuff remotely as long as you have camera there.
Very true.
Camera support.
Very true. No, you're right about that. You can
I
have
would love, by the way, on that, if our local announcers got to do our local games.
Well, I think that's what you could see. I mean, heck,
I'd love to do our local games.
Video games. They're doing video games. They can do a game, remotely. So,
yeah, this virtual video game shit. It just
the Caps at least had Craig and and Locker doing it. So,
yeah,
So do you think that those are plausible? Number one, and would you tune in? Obviously, we would. But
my God, are you kidding me? I would miss work that I don't have and I'm not doing to prepare for it.
To prepare yourself all day for the game,
right?
So I've heard that the Eastern Conference games would most likely be in New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of like that idea. I think it would be kind of cool.
So much money involved, you have to finish it.
You know what I would love is you're going to pick up the sounds, right? Because you're going to have the camera crews and everything, like Jay said. I would love to hear some of the banter between the players.
Well, that's one of the things I think you're going to see mic'd up in every sport.
Dude, that's going to be so fucking awesome. Can you imagine like going to a face-off? Oshie looks over at pick a cap killer. Yeah. Looks over at Sid and he's like, "You motherfucker."
But
got soft in quarantine.
At least I still probably wouldn't watch pro basketball, but for hockey anyway, I don't really ever notice the fans. I mean, because everything is they hardly pan out except like the timeouts or beginning of the games,
right?
But and they do when the crowd's getting jumpy right before they do the face-offs.
Or after goals or whatever, but that's about it.
Right. But it's the first two rows, and, when they see the bench, you'll see the couple people behind them. I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as Kirk Cousins said, who, by the way, will probably be president one day because he usually makes a lot of sense.
Be a decent candidate now.
Maybe now.
He, these players are used to practicing anyway without noise.
Right.
And he said, look, I play most of 90% of football without people watching me. I'm fine with that. I think we'll be okay with it.
Now, he makes a good point. And if you take the NBA or the NHL, for example, their practice facilities are, Kettler and, the little one in D.C. where the Zards practice,
And the preseason games. No one's really there for those.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like the summer league.
Redskins are used to not playing in front of anybody. So that's
a good point.
It's a competitive advantage.
Unfortunately,
yeah, they're like the leaders in the clubhouse now.
It's like my boy said about Pitt. He's like ahead of the game.
They've been playing without fans for 2 decades.
Playing without fans for a decade, man.
No, I think, but to your point, it's very feasible. I don't see any reason. The fans are going to be the issue. That's the issue. So if you take them out of the equation, I think it's very feasible on all fronts.
I think the mindset right now, a month ago, I would have thought it was abhorrent. This is crazy. You have to have fans. Now I'm like, what's the big deal? I'd rather have, with the limitations you have to have at a necessity, you have to finish it. But in a competitive sense, I think it hurts the Caps, right, that they didn't finish the season, and that especially if they start right up with, because what we were talking about going in before the pandemic hit was that the Caps' main advantage of success is wearing people down, and if everybody's coming in fresh, and they're going to be fresher throughout the first 7-game series, I think it's going to be harder for the Caps to get through.
Maybe, but I think everybody's going to be on that similar uneven footing, right?
You might be right, because when the Caps came at the beginning of the year, they were gangbusters.
Yep,
because they were probably healthy,
and they're old. Caps are an older team.
Yeah,
so I think that'll help.
Obviously, everybody's in the media is trying to interview any player they can, but Kovalchuk had a couple spots this week, and he was like, "I've been around the league, been around many leagues, and everything else." He's like, "This team is built for the postseason." He goes, there's so much high-end skill on this team. He goes, there's so much goal-scoring capability. Everybody's been there and done that. He goes, 90% of the guys in the room already have the ring. He goes, this team is built for the postseason.
If the Caps, if they play the playoffs, and I believe that we're trending that way, they are, and they're good, life is good. Holly's in bad shape because I'm going to be raring to go from... If the Caps are winning, I'm in indulgence. I'm miserable, on a lot of different fronts. But if the Caps are good, and the mortgage is paid,
You might be unbearable.
And for the record,
Oh my goodness!
I think she's laughing at you, not with you. But
I purposely don't drink, right? Because nobody wants drunk Jerry, especially.
I love drunk Jerry.
Not
That's
in there.
Jerry's life of the fucking party.
Not when there's not an outlet.
Jerry.
Like just drunk Jerry, just like why am I not making any money? Why are my girls in their rooms 24/7? I can't get them out of their rooms. Oh, it drives me crazy. I don't know about your kids, man, but my kids, this is an opportunity for them to work out, to get better at the sports that they play.
Yep.
And all they do is sit in their room and do nothing. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, this is the opportunity. You say you never have time. Now you have nothing but time.
That's right.
Anyway, don't get me into I digress. Now I'm back.
Now you're back. Now he's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I'm back in my doldrums. All right, let's talk about the draft, boys.
All right, yes. So, shit, man. Next Thursday. All right, let's start right off with the Skins. Okay, number 2 pick. We've talked about it ad nauseum. We had a nice little 4-week break. We didn't have to talk about it for a while, but here we are.
So we got some sort of fresh ideas.
I guess. I don't know. To me, when the season ended and you knew they were the 2nd pick, the first thought I had was, what package deal can they get coming back so that they can leverage this pick and get as many draft picks as they can and just load up on some talent, right? Since then, it's gone. The pendulum has swayed both ways. It's been all over the place. Bottom line is you have to have a dance partner if you're going to get a return on that 2nd pick. I don't know what the return is right now. How valuable are other teams behind us really valuing that 2nd pick at this point? Now, it doesn't appear to be very valuable.
Well, the negative in terms of the Skins is Miami was that obviously the target all along. I think the way they're looking at it is they can get Tua or Herbert at 5 and not give up anything. And, excuse me. And if that's the case, there's no movement.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
I don't think it's unfortunate at all. I'm pleased. I think they need to go Chase Young. I don't understand. I mean, I understand. First of all, you know, it's no fun when people are talking about something that's so obvious. Like you know, guys on the radio and guys that write opinions and news articles, they have to have something to talk about.
Of course.
And it's no fun if it's just, hey, let's draft Chase Young. Okay, next topic. There's nothing to talk about. So right now, like I read something about Boswell, wrote or something, and he's obviously very smart about how the Redskins should trade back, and everybody says they should trade back. To what? I mean, you can't just trade back just to trade back.
Correct. You can't go, hey, we traded the 2nd pick and we got 6 picks. Well, which picks are they? Doesn't matter. We got 6 of them.
Exactly.
Well, no, that means fucking everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So the only conceivable trade that you would give up a guy like that is multiple picks in the 1st round, right? This year. Because if you're going to trade back to a team that has the 17th pick and then the 17th pick in the 2nd round and the 17th pick in the 3rd round, that's not comparable. That's not.
I agree with you.
You're never going to get an impact player. You're going to get 3 players that may make the roster, that may make an impact.
Sure.
Right? So you need multiple players in the 1st round and you need high players in the 1st round, right? That leaves Miami and Jacksonville, right? Jacksonville, I think, has 9 and 20. Miami has all this. Miami, I don't think. If you read the tea leaves and everything's a smokescreen, they think they can get Tua, but they may not want Tua.
Right.
Right? They may want Herbert.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say this, and I will say this: I'm not sure as a prospect that Tua is better than Dwayne Haskins, and I'll just tell you why.
I agree, by the way.
As a player, he's probably better. But Tua has had crazy injuries over his career at Alabama. I'm talking multiple surgeries, not even just the last one, but he's had knee surgeries, he's had shoulder problems. If you draft Tua, I think there's a good bet he would not ever play 16 straight games, ever, in his career, because he is so beat up. And while, so you may get 4 games of great play and then 2 games of no play. And then 3 games of okay play because he's coming off injury. And then 2 games where he can't. I mean, and you'd have that over 4 years, it's not worth it. At least with Dwayne, you have the capability of being on the field all the time. Now, he got injured too last year. But to me, I would have real reservations of drafting, if I had the number 2 pick, and I do have the number 2 pick from the Redskins, of drafting Tua because of his injury concern. I don't think he's worth that the longevity of his career is enough of a risk for me to pass, even if it wasn't Chase Young there.
I agree with you. I think one thing that gave me some optimism that they weren't going to take Tua or do something really stupid is when they got Kyle Allen, because he's a relatively young guy, familiar to Rivera and his system and everything. And so now you have two young quarterbacks that are both fairly cheap and cost controlled here for a little while. Don't fuck that up. I think they did that on purpose, knowing they got two guys for the injury purposes as well as competition wise. They'll bring a third, sad sack in there, and it won't be Colt McCoy, and, and they'll have the emergency backup. But I think they feel like we're going to win 6, 7, 8 games somehow, and it's really not going to make a difference who the quarterback's going to be now.
It shouldn't really matter. Because it's a 3-year rebuild if you're smart.
Exactly right.
And you just take the best players you can every time, right? And of the trade back options, Miami is really the only feasible one that has multiple picks in the first round.
Right.
Jacksonville is tanking because they want the kid from Clemson next year.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
better than any of these guys.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence. So,
right.
I think he's a best prospect of them all. So if you're the Redskins, man, roll with it. If Haskins turns out to flame out and be a disaster, you're getting a high pick next year, and you can get a quarterback then.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I'm at the point now where if they don't take Chase Young, I think I'm going to be pretty pissed.
I am too.
Because I heard, again, all we've had is time on our hands. So listening to various pundits and draft experts talk that I normally wouldn't listen to as intently, and the consensus is whether or not you think he's a 12-sack defensive end or whatever, he is legitimate grade A top-end talent. And the Redskins have very little grade A top-end talent, if any, on the squad. You need somebody at some position that is just a flat-out stud, and he is.
Well, we've been talking about it for, I don't even know, 4 months now, that we just hope that...
It's kind of depressing in and of itself. But
that we want there to be no choice. And I think that's kind of what we're still saying, is there is no choice but to take Chase, which is great. I'm just not a Tua guy anyway. So the injuries almost don't bother me. I think what you really have to look at is, let's say Burrow, Tua, and Dwayne all played this past season in college. Where would they all be? I think Tua can be a starter in this league, but I don't think he's a lot of swing passes. He's got the most talent in the world, in front of him. He's not going to be that player. He's not Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's compared to.
Yep.
And we're not even counting the injuries. I think he can be good. This is one of those where I could be completely wrong, but I don't see Tua as the number 2 pick in the draft. You take him at 15 like a Haskins, that's a different story. But at 2, to me, he's not even a consideration.
I'm 100% on with you. I don't think it's a debate. People forget that the Redskins were the worst team in the NFL on third downs.
The offense as a whole, right? Yeah. Pretty much.
No,
maybe better, maybe Cincinnati or something.
No, on defense, getting off the field.
Getting off the field, yeah.
Defense. Sorry. The Washington defense was the worst statistically of getting off the field on third down, and part of that is because they couldn't rush the passer. They're good against the run. John Allen's good against the run. Payne's good against the run. Mm-hmm. Ioannidis is good against the run. Mm-hmm. But none of those guys are elite pass rushers, and they couldn't get to the quarterback.
Right.
You have a guy who can get to the quarterback, who may not be great against the run, but can get to the quarterback, and that's a big need. I don't understand. You would have to blow me away. Like Miami would have to say, our first round draft picks go to you, and our second round. 4. You can get 4 starters for one guy. That might make me think about it.
Right.
Other than that,
but that's a pipe dream. That
which
ain't
is not happening. Why they would do it?
They won't do it.
Right.
They won't do it. But that's what it would take me to even pick up the phone. Right.
Right. I'll tell you what Chase Young does for that front 7 is, like you said, Jerry. He gives you a legit pass rush threat, which means you have to focus on other areas of the defense. And I hate to make this analogy because I don't want us to be built like this team. But if you look at Buffalo the last couple of years, Allen's not a good quarterback. But he's serviceable, right? They made the fucking playoffs.
Yeah.
It's because their defense is nasty. And he did enough to get that offense through. I'm not saying Haskins or Kyle Allen or anything like him, but what I'm saying is you don't need to have a Burrow or a Tua to win 8 or 9 or 10 games if you've got a lights-out stud defense.
Here is your starting defense next year as it stands right now. All right? And obviously trades could happen and all this other stuff. But you have defensive end Sweat, defensive tackle Payne, defensive tackle Allen Ioannidis. And then another defensive end is Ryan Kerrigan. Assuming you draft Chase Young, you plug him there. You got Kendall Fuller at corner, Fabian Moreau at corner, and Sean Davis at safety, Maryland guy.
Yeah, Terps.
Landon Collins at safety. Sean Davis can stay healthy. That's an upgrade.
Sean Davis is a stud when he's healthy. He's legit.
And you need some linebacker help. You got Thomas Davis, who I think they brought in just to sort of run practices and still in culture, but he's ancient.
Yeah, but he's probably got a year in him.
Right. Bostic, solid, maybe average, below average.
Holcomb,
average, below average. Reuben Foster, if he can come back, average to above average.
Nice addition if he can come back.
So you have a defense there that has proven to be adequate talent-wise. You bring in Chase Young, now you have some above-average talent to get off the field on third downs, and you're better coached. That's a 7 to 8 win team defense right there. They'll just by adding a better coach than Minuski.
Better coach than Minuski. I think one of the things that you mentioned is its depth. Yeah. That's something they haven't had. I mean, the drop-off before, if a guy gets hurt or whatever is ridiculous.
Yep.
And, good defenses, not that we really know what that is. Well, I guess we look at the Ravens, we can figure it out. But the Redskins don't know what good defense is. Good defense is having 18 to 20 guys you can play.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's what they're pushing towards. Are they all top end like those linebackers you talked about? Not necessarily. But if you can rotate guys in, keep them fresher, you really have your dime package, your nickel package linebackers, things like that. You just mentioned the depth we have up front if you add Chase. I mean, Ioannidis probably doesn't even start, but so what?
Right.
You bring him in fresh. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, that's just it. You're bringing Kerrigan, Sweat, Ioannidis in fresh. They don't have to be a stud 3 downs in a row. Just one down.
Just one down.
One series or whatever it is,
See, I think Kerrigan's still got some wheels,
Especially
if he plays 20 plays a game.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you have Del Ria who knows how to use all of those chess pieces.
Thank God he's here. Jesus Christ.
Really? I mean, probably more important than Rivera.
He might be.
Obviously,
he's no Minuski though, Jeremy.
No, he's Minuski.
I mean, if Minuski was here, Chase Young would have 3 interceptions, right? Because he'd be dropping back.
Well, that's awesome.
Freaking moron.
And Fuller would have like 4 sacks.
Moron.
He was.
Isn't it telling that he gets fired and nobody even wants him? He's not even talk for any other job.
He's a quality control assistant at Kentucky. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL's like, all right. I mean, come on.
Seriously,
that coaching staff last year was a joke.
It was a complete disaster. No wonder Jay was so indifferent, even during the preseason. Like during his press conferences, he just looked like, I don't even care. I don't even want to be here. I don't blame him one bit.
Well, he knew. I mean, his idea was, hey, these guys are pros. They can take care of themselves. And he was wrong.
Yep.
About the players, about the other coaches, and it cost him his job.
Well, I think the draft for the Redskins starts at 66. Well, it starts with Trent Williams.
Right. What you do whenever you end up getting.
So you draft Chase Young. It's an easy first day for you.
Right.
You have assuming the teleconferences and the video conferences.
Oh, that's going to be hilarious. By the way,
I would have 17. I would turn my card in now. Right, I would turn my card in now. If this guy's available and you don't hear from me, draft him. Like that's what I do to Jeremy for the fantasy draft because I'm so I think for the draft, the Redskins starts with Trent Williams and see what you can get for him.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that I texted you guys. I think the Vikings make the most sense. The Vikings need an upgrade. They're in a win now mentality.
Right.
They have a tackle named Riley Reif, who is an adequate average to above average tackle, but Trent Williams is better. Mm-hmm. And if they could get rid of him and his contract, get in Trent Williams, and then give up a 3rd or 4th round draft pick, that seems to make a lot of sense for both teams. I would be okay with that. You're getting his replacement, and he's in the 3rd year of a 4-year deal.
Okay.
So he's got some upside. Tampa Bay, maybe. Mm-hmm.
O.J. Howard.
Yeah, may make sense too because they have Brady. And even though they did sign a guy already, a tackle, he's not as good as Trent Williams. And Tom Brady saying, look, you got a chance to get this guy.
Yeah, Brady's going to pull the strings down there now.
I would
seriously,
absolutely would. Yeah, tell me what you want me to do.
That's exactly what I would do.
And then O.J. Howard could be an option at
Yep.
tight end, which is the Redskins are still lacking. So
Do they even actually have a legitimate tight end on the roster?
here is their
About 4 backups or
yeah,
4 third stringers.
here's their depth chart. Logan Thomas,
Who was a quarterback?
quarterback of Virginia Tech.
Right.
Hale Hengis, who ended the year. Richard Rogers, who's played like 2 games in the past 3 years. Sprinkle, who sucks. Caleb Wilson, who sucks. And Marcus Ball, I think we hired at High Boating Supply last week.
Well, he needs something to do, so it's okay.
Right? So
He was the guy that didn't help Andrea unload the mulch into her car.
sorry, guys.
That's a great ad there for High Building Supply.
I don't. By the way, the business is thriving. So fuck you guys. Take your business also. Just
Do you
kidding.
have toilet paper?
We're not. We don't have toilet paper. I think
Has Mitch already raided the closet for mixers?
I think Logan Thomas is a good backup tight end, a tight end 2, but they
Yeah.
need a tight end 1.
I
He
agree.
got some upside. I mean, I like him, but you need a 1 or at
You need
least
a
a
1,
2.
right? So you got to get it in the draft, and you got to get. I mean, it's if you want Dwayne Haskins to have a safety blanket, you got to get a tight end. I don't understand. It's not that they can't understand. They can't be that stupid to think that their situation at tight end.
It just goes to show how many needs they have.
Absolutely, because they need wide receiver.
Exactly
probably
right.
more.
Because they know in house, of course, that they need tight end help. They know that high end tight end help isn't available, and the draft really isn't very strong for it. And they've got so many other needs. If you have to have a position that is kind of patchwork, is that the worst position to have that's patchwork? Probably not.
Not at all. And you know what I've been thinking? This is probably a silly idea, but I like the idea of what about Harmon? Could he play that, especially on third downs? Being that because he's a big dude. He's probably too big to really be anything else, especially he's not going to be an outside guy, really. He's not fast enough. I've always thought
That's an intriguing point.
That you probably can't convert him this fast, but I like the idea of Harmon being out there in that role, especially on third downs and things.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
To me, a tight end is if you can get a tight end that can block adequately, which Jordan Reed couldn't. I mean, They haven't had one of those in forever.
Oh, it's been so long.
But if they can get
Doc Walker.
if they can get a tight end that can block adequately and catch adequately. Like that kid from Dayton, that Troutman kid, and I know we're getting into the draft now, but that kid.
Yeah, bring it on, man. Let me hear all the weeks of research, Jerry.
I've heard that name as well.
Right. There's a kid from Florida Atlantic, Harrison Bryant, big kid,
Okay.
and shows a willingness to block.
All right.
That is a 2-way tight end. He is not the best tight end is the guy from Notre Dame.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He's gone in the second round.
Oh, of course.
The early first, second round. They're saying how weak of the tight end draft this is, but I think that guy's gone. If you're a Redskin fan, you're looking at these names at tight end. And because someone's dropping, right? Either you're getting a second round pick for Trent Williams, which is probably not going to happen, or you're hoping that one of these guys drop because some other position has fallen. Same with wide receiver, and so it just so happens that the Redskins need both of them. But the kid Harrison Bryant, no, I'm sorry, Harrison. There's 2 Harrisons. Yep, I was right. Harrison Bryant from Florida Atlantic, big kid, 6'5", 245.
Okay.
According to the scouts, he shows a willingness to block.
All right.
The Troutman kid from Dayton is about 265.
I love that size.
265. He can block. Right?
I would hope so at 265.
He's
Just stand there, son.
Maybe closer to 255, but he's a big, strong guy. And he ran a 4.7 at the combine, which was impressive for him. Not the most fluid hands, but he's more of your 2-way tight end, your traditional tight end.
But see, he's that check down guy that a guy like Haskins needs. Because if he can just run 4 yards into the flat and turn and catch the ball.
If either one of those guys drop to the third round, you can think in the Redskins, I think, should be targeting them, right? Because he's your tight end 1. Those guys walk in, they're better than any tight end you have. If you want to get a Jordan Reed type player, and you can get him in the 3rd or 4th round, there's a guy named from Washington named Hunter Bryant.
Okay.
And if you watch his game film, it's like, holy shit, he's a wide receiver. He can't block worth shit. Right?
Gotcha.
And Doc Walker used to say when Jordan, you might as well just not have him blocking anybody.
Right. Now, Cooley was a decent blocker, wasn't he?
Fuller was a decent blocker.
He was just so damn smart,
right.
Right.
Jordan Reed had absolutely no interest in it.
No.
A guy named Devin Assi from UCLA.
Okay.
He's actually getting some traction lately. But the best, if you want to get a late rounder, 4th or 5th rounder, Randy Moss's son.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
He can
Is that
block.
Thaddeus?
And he's raw. Right? The only reason he probably shouldn't stayed in school.
Right.
He would have been a second round pick next year.
Gotcha.
He's a guy you can get in the fourth or fifth round, maybe.
Huh. Interesting.
I love that idea.
It depends on when. But any of those guys.
So point being,
they come in and they start.
So even though the draft isn't tight end centric in terms of your studs, you're saying that in the fourth and fifth round, you can actually get a starting tight end.
I'm saying the Redskins will get a starting tight end in this draft. And
that makes me feel better.
Right. And the person that they draft will come in and start. Either through a trade, right, for Trent Williams or somebody else. Their starting tight end is not on the roster, but it will be after the draft.
Gotcha.
But the best thing about this draft is there's going to be wide receivers that are starters that fall. So
Sweet.
At 66, if there's not if the Redskins want to trade down, that's fine. Trade down to third. You know? But if there's not, my bet is that you're not going to draft an offensive tackle because Trent Williams is gone, and you're going to sign someone off the street. Because after the draft, another offensive tackle who's probably average to below average is going to get cut because of salary purposes probably, and you're going to pick one of those guys up. Same thing like you did with Penn. Right now, you're starting left tackle, some guy named Lucas at Chicago's had like 8 starts last year. You know, he's better than Jerron Christian. But you know, I mean, here's your starting offensive line for the Skins. Lucas, Wes Martin, Chase Rouillet, Sheriff, Morgan Moses, who I wouldn't care if he got cut because he's terrible.
Well, you can just pencil him in for. They play 16 games, right? So 18 holding penalties.
Right.
They'll decline 4 or 5 of them.
So the way I see it, if I'm a Redskin fan, is you're getting Chase Young and then you're just sitting pat because you're not getting a second round pick. So you can just chill out for a little bit. But your draft starts at 66.
Okay. And
you're focusing. The only person you draft on defense after that time is corner.
Got it.
Right? Unless someone drops. Unless you have like a third grade on somebody and he's there in the fifth and he's a defensive tackle, I'm like, shit, I can't let that guy go.
Okay.
Like, that guy can play for us, right? But otherwise, you're drafting nothing but offense. And you're praying that one of these guys, one of these wide receivers, T. Higgins from Clemson,
that's the name I was going to bring up.
Yep.
Somebody who's got a second round grade is dropping because there are so many good wide receivers. You know, the kid from Colorado, Sherrod, I can't pronounce his name, but when it came out, T. Higgins was a first round pick at the combine.
Right.
Now he's dropping. They need a big receiver. The kid from Colorado dropping.
Right.
The kid from USC is dropping. These guys will come in and start. You know, Pittman, that's his name. So if you're a Redskin fan, you're looking at the third round pick, tight end, wide receiver. You got 2 4th round picks, another offense, get a guard, get somebody, whoever's dropping. But any offensive non-quarterback that drops, that's who I think the Redskins could. They can get some weapons in the 3rd and 4th round that could come in and start and contribute, not just developmental guys.
See, and that I like the sound of that because that's kind of where they are. The NFL's so funny, right? Your team can be in the shitter, which the Skins were last year. Awful coaching staff, anemic defense. I mean, just the whole nine. And then you start talking like this. There's only a handful of combinations that are available out there. It makes them so much better, though. I mean, a couple things go their way. They can win 8, 9, 10 games if things go right. I mean, what other league can you do that like year to year?
And I don't think that's a pipe dream. I mean,
it's really not. I'm not saying they're going to do that, by the way.
But the potential is there, is the point.
It's exactly right.
So,
and that gives you reason for optimism.
I mean, but if you think about going back to Trent Williams, who is just a complete douchebag, in my opinion. I'm just saying, he's an asshole.
Have you heard the interviews with his agent?
Yeah, I mean,
his agent doesn't sound like the brightest bulb.
No,
you think?
I mean, I almost feel bad for Trent because it's like you listen to this guy, you're like, whose best interest are you even talking about?
Is he like an old family friend?
He sound like Trent's best interest.
He came out because Trent Williams probably got on his ass about why are you not pushing this agenda,
right?
You know, because he came out and desperate. I mean, he wasn't even making any sense. It was like, you know, but apparently Trent Williams wants to get paid, and he don't want to be in Washington, right? And so he's got to go. The problem for him is that unlike Dunbar, who got traded for a fifth, because I think Ron Rivera just didn't want him around. And he's not good enough to act like he was acting.
Exactly.
Right?
I kind of like that from Rivera. He's like, no, fuck me, fuck you.
I mean, just get rid of him, right?
Well said.
But Trent Williams has value, and he's one of the best at his position. So you're not going to just get rid of him.
I think that's what could end up being interesting for the Skins fans, in terms of day two, is after round one, when those O-linemen do go that are available there, someone's still going to need one, most likely.
Absolutely.
And that's where the trade comes through.
Well, there are four tackles in the first round, although the Beckham kid from Louisville just came up negative on a drug test at the combine, which of course is leaked.
Of course.
It's supposed to be confidential, but it's always leaked by teams who want him to drop so they can take him.
Yep.
But that to me, that wouldn't. If it's marijuana or something, well, I wouldn't care.
Well, that's not even a problem anymore, is it, in the NFL?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not.
But I would assume that the teams you're looking at, if like a team like Cleveland comes out of the first round without a tackle,
are they going to be pretty desperate at that point?
They're going to be pretty desperate at that point.
Yeah.
But like I said, I like the Vikings. I like the Tampa opportunities. And you need to get a draft pick and you need to get a starter for the trade. It doesn't have to be. It's not going to be a second, but you can get a third or fourth. But you need to come out with a player too who's not happy on the teams you get. And to me, that the Vikings and the Tampa Bay and maybe Cleveland. But they got that tight end Njoku who's so injured all the time. I'm not really sure how much value he has.
Yeah.
I don't think he's enough value for the Skins.
I think Kyle Smith and Ron Rivera have it. I just think they're going to. They may take a little less to get rid of Trent, but they're going to get something of value to where it fits what they want.
I really hope so.
And I think the Redskins are going to come out of draft day a 6 or 7 win team, which is a pretty good upgrade from what they had.
And in that, and I do agree with you, I think 6 or 7 wins is realistic, and I can see a roadmap for that happening. And with that being said, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 swing games in there,
right?
Where you go, we could have won 8 or 9 or 10.
I think the Redskins are going to play defense-oriented ball.
Absolutely. Whereas last year, because what did we win last year? 3?
3.
Okay, how do we win 3? We're so fucking terrible.
Right.
We shouldn't have won any.
I mean, Vegas.
How did Miami win 6 or whatever?
Vegas has a win total over under 4. So they're Redskins are one of the worst teams, and I'm not saying they're completely outrageous. They are, but it's a 3-year rebuild. Why would you trade down? It just doesn't make any sense to get lesser talent.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think in a lot of ways, and I think Jeremy made this point, the draft almost plays itself out if you're the Redskins. You take Young, first. Like you said, Jerry, you wait for 66, and then you are literally going, who is the highest rated guy on our board?
Who dropped?
Yeah. Exactly. Every single time.
Every single time.
It's going to be a wide receiver or tight end. And you need weapons. You got McLaurin and nobody else, man.
I think some of the best drafts from respective teams, when you look back at them, are when they were in a position of power in terms of not really needing one thing or another. And they just kind of go, we just had to take the best players.
Absolutely.
And then you look at it and go, holy shit, we got 6 starters out of that draft. And it's because they didn't overthink it. And then the next year, you're in a better position, you're a contender, and you start overthinking everything. That's when your draft turns to shit.
And back to the point I was talking about, with depth, it's kind of the same thing. Even if they're not starters, if they're rotation guys, that's still an upgrade and an inexpensive upgrade that this team needs. We haven't seen this thing run right in 20 years. Let's start seeing it run right. It looks a lot different.
Yeah. I would be surprised if the Redskins don't have starters in the first 4 rounds. I think their first 4 picks are going to be starters.
And based on what you just said with regard to, even though it's not top end talent heavy, it's starter. You can get starters at wide receiver, at corner, at tight end. You might be right. Their first 4 or 5 picks could be starting players.
Well, if they take like a linebacker, right, or a safety or a defensive lineman, it's because that player is so high on the board and he dropped for no reason that they can think of. That's why they took him. They had to take him. It's like almost like you're baiting me not to take him. This guy could be. Now they need some linebacking help, right? But I would think that they're so deficient on offense in terms of weapons that's what they're going to be focusing on. But if you see like a linebacker dropping, it's because we had that guy rated in the second. He's here in the first pick of the 4th. Are you kidding me? That's why Shanahan said they took Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
They had him like at a second round pick, and he was there at the 4th. And they said we can't not take this guy,
Right.
you know. And the good teams like that do that.
Right.
That's how they think, right? So if you have a glut of defensive linemen and they're taking a defensive lineman, it's because holy shit, this guy's a starter,
Right.
and we can't afford not to take him.
Sure.
And that's a perfect, to my point is, if you do take a D lineman, he probably will not be a starter, but so what? If he's that good, again, you need that depth anyway, and I think that's what I'm seeing. They've done it in almost every position, even through free agency. Is our O-line as good as it was with Trent? Of course not. But what was our biggest problem? Again, depth. Any of those top 5 guys get hurt, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. If they have 9 or 10 guys that can actually play, none of them as good as Trent or nobody else as good as like Sheriff, that's fine. I'd much rather have that than the OGs when you send somebody off the street because we need competition. It's like, no, the competition should be among your 8 or 10 guys in the room, not somebody who has to get off the street just because somebody got nicked up.
Exactly.
I'm hoping for the Williams trade that they can trade for a starter to replace him.
Until you put that idea out there, I didn't even think that was a possibility. Right. I figured that trade would be straight up picks.
It came from ESPN, and the guy who wrote the article was like, the Redskin fans will be angry about this, and then the JP Finley did a poll. It was like 70% approval.
They're like, hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it, man. You give me Riley Reif and 2 4th-round picks and a 5th. Are you kidding me? Hell yeah, let's do that.
I mean, that sounds like a hell of a yield.
Oh my goodness, hell yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat. From where they are now, I mean, just because everything is so blown up with Trent Williams, I mean, there's no way you could bring him back. When Joe Theismann said there's no way he can come back, and he's Mr. Redskin,
yeah, that's
Mr.
true.
Optimism,
that's true.
You can't bring him back.
I agree. All right, so let's go up the Beltway a little bit and go to our purple friends up in the Ravens country.
Well, the Ravens are drafting from positions of strength. They had obviously an early exit, but they are coming back with a lot of talent. They have
a shit ton of talent on that team.
They got rid of my boyfriend Hayden Hurst.
They did,
but they got a 2nd-round pick and a 4th or 5th from Atlanta. So that's a pretty good haul for
that
the
is.
backup.
That's really good because Hooper. Where did Hooper end up going?
Cleveland, right?
That's right. Yes, that's right. So Njoku is going to be available then, Jerry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know. I'm kidding.
But I think Cleveland has sort of burnt their bridge with the Redskins. I mean, that GM Dorsey's trashed the Redskins,
but he's gone, right?
I thought he was still there. Isn't John Dorsey
I'm pretty sure Dorsey's gone. We can check on that while we talk on the Redskins.
I think, but they've been mentioned for like 2 years now. I'd be surprised if they still had the juice. And I think they're going to take one of the offensive tackles in the 1st round. So I really do think Cleveland's off the ball. I think Bruce Allen really pissed them off last year by
Bruce Allen pissed somebody off. I mean, besides Redskin fans.
So anyway, the Ravens have 9 picks now. They have a 1st and 28. They have 2 2nd-rounders. They have 2 3rd-rounders and 2 4th-rounders. So I think with that ammunition, I think the Ravens are going to be more of the aggressive teams in the draft in terms of trading up. They're probably going to have some players they're targeting.
He's gone.
John Dorsey's gone? Well, fuck you, Jerry.
Yeah, it happened
fuck
recently.
you, Jerry.
Yeah, it happened like the last couple months, I think.
Fun fact I just saw, he's from Leonardtown, Maryland.
Well. That's where John will. No, don't worry about it.
Fuck it. Who cares? Who gives a shit? John Dorsey, see ya.
So the Ravens are sitting there at 28, and they have a lot of draft capital. I think you can see them moving up. DaCosta seems to be like an aggressive guy. I remember how he traded back twice to get Hayden Hurst, and then he traded up to get Lamar, and that was just in 1 round. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they move.
So you think they're going to move up?
I think they're going to move up to get one of the players. The way most people think is they need help in the front 7 on defense.
I would agree with that.
They need linebacker. They need edge.
Everybody needs an edge rusher, don't they? God, it's such an important position.
They
in this
need
league.
Interior offensive linemen. But I mean, if you looked at the Tennessee game, the playoff game, I mean, they were just running over them. They couldn't stop the running back. They had no defensive. Their front 7 was getting outmatched, and it was masked a lot during the year because their offense was so good,
right? That
their defense stayed the offense stayed on the field for a long time. But when it got down to crunch time, and the offense was stymied, the defense they couldn't hold up,
right?
So I would expect at the 28th pick, most mocks have them going with a linebacker. They're Patrick Queen from LSU is a name to look at.
Yep.
Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma is a name to look at. They may be gone at 28, which is why they may trade him.
Exactly right.
There's a kid from Wisconsin. I don't know if you guys have seen him play, but his name is Bond. He was a linebacker, like an edge rusher, but he can also play stand-up.
Correct.
He just tested positive. He smokes weed, so he's a lot of fun to hang out with.
Good for him. Probably needs it, Jerry. He needs it.
Then playing at Wisconsin, it's going to be the most boring. Is that the most boring program you could imagine thinking about?
It's up there. It's up there.
That's just
you know who else sounds? Michigan State looks like one of the most boring schools ever.
Awful.
East Lansing is in the middle of fucking nowhere.
They score like 12 points a game on football, and they score like 50 points a game in basketball.
It's just it just
But
looks
they win
miserable.
in
They
basketball.
do. God bless them, but it just looks miserable over there. Ugh.
But the name I would be targeting is Chason from LSU. He's an edge rusher, linebacker.
Yeah.
If you could trade up to get him, I think he's a top 20 pick.
He's a stud.
And he's a stud. He's their second best pass rusher.
Yep.
In the and if you had compare him with Judon, assuming Judon's been franchised, assuming they don't trade him, there's apparently some friction there. But if you don't trade him, now you have two dynamic pass rushers that will help obviously on the defensive line. They also Marshall Yanda retired, so they need some interior line. You can get a guard in the first 2 or 3 rounds. This guy Simpson from Clemson gets projected to them a lot. I think he does a lot of the blocking type at Clemson that the Ravens do. To me, I think a surprise pick in the first round, if they stay at 28, would be one of the running backs who may drop. I think running backs are going to drop. I think receivers are going to drop in the draft. And
See, I could see them targeting receivers, especially in the second and third rounds.
They certainly
right?
need a wide receiver. But you can get a starter in the second round.
Yeah.
Which
So day 2 for them is going to be their big day.
Day 2 for them is going to be a big day. I think, but what I think would be intriguing is what happens if Swift or Taylor, the running backs are there, and now you
But
can
not Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift would be incredible at 28.
DeAndre Swift from Georgia and Taylor from Wisconsin, the guy that rushed for like 9,000 yards.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
All right, so the knock I've heard on that guy is, does he really translate to the NFL?
I think so.
Ball security is one of the things with him, right?
Ball
That's one of the things
security,
to worry
and
about.
they're saying he was your prototypical, he was running behind an NFL-level offensive line
And he
at
was the
Wisconsin.
30 carry.
You mean the one that gave up 4 sacks to Chase Young?
And
I hope
Yeah,
he's an
right.
NFL caliber offensive line.
No, but they. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but he's one of those guys where, like you just said, Jeremy, he needed it 30 times,
And that just doesn't work in this
and that
day and
just
age.
doesn't work in
At
the
least
NFL.
not for longevity, maybe for a season, but
But I think he had a pretty good combine.
I think so.
oh, he's
I
a
think
good
so.
player. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no question about that.
But,
Is he 28 though? I guess is my question.
And that would be mine as well.
well, DeAndre Swift from Georgia, if he's around and you compare him up with Mark Ingram, that's pretty dynamic.
Yeah.
Taylor, I would see if one of those guys drop. If not, you could think of J.K. Dobbins in the second from Ohio
Yep.
State. I
Yep.
think that guy's a
I
star.
like him.
See, and to me, when I look at Dobbins versus Taylor, Taylor impresses me so much more, but I see Dobbins translating in the NFL better.
Right.
That's just what my eyes tell
the
me.
best if you're a Ravens fan, what you want to see is you don't want to see linebackers go off the board early. You want to see a run on offensive tackles. You want to see a run on quarterbacks. You'd love to see Love go early, in the top 15.
Yep.
You'd love to see 3 quarterbacks, 4 offensive tackles, a bunch of wide receivers, and that's dropping everybody else down.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Because obviously you guys know how the draft works. If there's a run on something, people panic.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you have 2 or 3 consecutive offensive tackles going, you're like, holy shit, I need to either get up there to get them, or I need to draft that guy now, whereas I don't have him rated as high. So if one of those, what you want to see is you want to see one of those linebackers dropping to where you're going to get the guy you want at 28. You don't have to trade up.
Yep.
Now you can get running back, wide receiver, because wide receiver is loaded. You can get one of those guys who dropped out of the first round because of the run on another position in the second round. Now you got your starting linebacker, you got your starting wide receiver. They definitely need wide receiver help.
So let me ask you this. Being that late in the first round, lots of options open up on day 1 as a result of the run on position players, et cetera. What if there's a run on guys that they were looking at and it's a pipe dream to move up into the top 15? What if they're sitting back there going, the next 4 or 5 guys we want are going to be sitting there in the top of round 2? What if they move back and get a haul of day 2 picks?
Well,
could that happen? Or do you think he's more aggressive than that?
I think he's more aggressive.
Yeah.
I think if he starts seeing a run on linebackers and edge rushers, he's like, well, shit, I got to get, I got 4 guys I'm targeting and they're all going to be gone. You're calling up to 17, 18, and I'm going to give you a second and third and get up there and get them.
Well, complete opposite of the Skins. They don't necessarily need 6 or 7 guys that are going to start out of this draft. They just need to plug certain holes. So I think they're more likely to try to move up.
Yeah.
I mean, they need impact front 7 players.
So they're way more targeted and focused by position, and that's going to dictate how aggressive or not they are within that round.
Yeah, I think so. You got to figure that somebody, it may not be the guy they were targeting in the first round, but if all the guys they want are gone, someone's going to fall at some position. They'll be like, you know what? He's too high on our board. We got to take him.
I mean, the kid from LSU, like I mentioned in that example, he's not going to be there 28. He's a top 20 pick.
Right.
So, but if he's there at 17, you're like, wow, he's really there. And the team at 17 is like, I needed a quarterback and it's gone, or I needed a, whatever position they're looking to get back. And they're looking to take something that's reasonable. Now you can go up there and get your guy,
right?
And you still have a second or third round pick. So, but I think the Redskins. I think the Ravens need starting front 7. They need to come out with 3 starters in this draft: wide receiver and 2 in the front 7.
Okay.
I mean, they did get the Wolf guy, Derek Wolf or something, as a defensive end, and they did get the Calais Campbell guy, and that's an upgrade from what they have. But those guys are older, and they need some more pop. They need some juice. They need, they need some blood. I think they really will trade up to try to get an impact edge rusher. That's my prediction. If they stay at home, they're going to hope that one of those, or they'll trade up to get one of those linebackers who are going. I mean, if you see Kenneth Murray going in the top 15 and you're the Ravens, you're feeling a little nervous.
Right.
That one of my guys.
Right. We need to start. we need to start this process now.
And I think they're going to be teams, especially after the run of offensive tackles go, because there's 4 offensive tackles. The kid from Louisville, Becton, Thomas, the kid from Alabama, Willis, and Tristan Wirfs, who's more like a Brandon Sheriff clone.
Okay.
I think they're going to be gone in the top 15. And if you're sitting there at 17 and you're hoping one of those guys draft you because you need an offensive tackle, and now they're gone, you're like, well, I'm looking to get out of here.
Right.
I can get back.
Very good call.
So those are the teams the Ravens can target to get up there and get the guy they want on defense.
Gotcha. I think I'm just as intrigued with the draft being remote now, to see how many IT fuck ups we see on day one. It's going to be hysterical.
I think
we should do an interactive drinking game during the draft. The very first snafu.
I mean,
we ought to maybe even try to do a Zoom or something like that. If you want. I haven't tried that yet.
I did it with my family last Sunday. Yeah,
it's so funny. My mom.
How's Barb?
I love her. When you talk,
tell her I said hi and I'm smiling. She loves me.
Optimism.
She loves me.
I ask her, I direct a question or comment to her, and then she doesn't respond in time, so I think she didn't hear it. And then I say, Mom, did you? And then she answers it while I'm talking. It drives me fucking crazy.
So George said that
you got to get the rhythm.
Going Zoom with the schools and everything, and he said the first one was so cringeworthy. He's like, Dad, I had to just drop out of it. He's like, I couldn't even just sit through it. It was like, okay, wait to ask your questions. Oh wait, did you have a question? Silence for 30 seconds, and then they're like, wait, what's going on? Right. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, we do them for the football where I coach. We have Zooms every night. It's absolutely hilarious. I've been on for 3 weeks. I've been on one, probably 2 or 3 every night, every week. I don't get on all of them. And I've never said a word. I'm the JV defensive line coach. What do I say? I mean, I don't know blitzes. I don't know coverages. I don't know anything about offense. I'm just sort of sitting there like, really? We run that? I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. I don't even know. What are you talking? What's I don't know what the coverage is.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, so I've never set one up, but I've been on them.
Gotcha. It would be fun.
Zoom. I think there should be conspiracy theory into those guys setting this pandemic up.
Dude.
If I could go back in time, like Nancy Pelosi, and know this was coming, and then invest in Zoom,
buy a couple shares in Zoom back in January.
Yeah, I'd be like the biggest investor in Zoom, and now I'm a multi-billionaire.
That'd be amazing.
By the way, I would just use that name. That's not slanderous.
You can slander her.
Yeah, you can slander her. She wouldn't know it.
I'm just saying
Speaking of borderline brain dead,
that her husband did do that after he sold off all the bad stocks, and that's probably just good.
It's good business, Jerry.
It's coincidence, it's a coincidence.
Dude, if I had that many, shares and stuff to move, I'd probably be doing the same kind of thing,
It's amazing.
But that's how the other half lives. So
the other half, if I sold stock, I have a financial advisor, and he just says, don't contact me for a year. Don't look at your 401k.
Pretty much everybody just said the same thing. They're like, just sit tight. Sit tight.
He's like, I just made him promise me, whatever you buy, that's what you buy for me. Right? Don't do an investment for me that you wouldn't do for your own family.
There you go.
And he's like, I promise you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, that's good enough. So, what could go wrong?
I like my guy. He's pretty good. He pretty much just said, he sent out like a mass email and he said the phrase that like a lot of, pundits are using to get your business is, hey, you just lost X in your retirement. He goes, if you can't access whatever those funds are for another 20 years, you didn't lose shit.
Right.
You can't touch them anyway, right. So it doesn't fucking matter. He's like, just hang tight and wait. Now, if you're 68 years old and you're counting on that, that's a completely different scenario.
I'm pretty sure Social Security is gone for us.
Oh, we're buying into something we will never reap the benefits of. I can guarantee you that.
Never.
I made my peace with that.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I just figure I'm going to be working until I'm like 75.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm going to work till I drop.
You should be all right.
Yeah. I actually, it's pretty bad when your wife says, can you apply for unemployment? No. Thank God you're working, honey.
That's some funny shit right there. All right. So what other sports topics did we want to hit on?
So that covers the draft. I think we should have a pod after the draft.
I think so too.
To talk about everything.
Yeah.
And I have not been paying attention to the NHL. But has anybody made any tentative estimations about May, June?
So
nothing until May at all.
Right.
That's the first potential start of anything ramp up.
Yeah. So the way that they did the recent proposal was, not proposal, but so the most recent developments are the governor of New Hampshire has been in direct contact with Gary Bettman and a handful of other teams to confirm logistics if they were to stage a certain number of teams in his state close by to the number of rinks, what access they have to technology, camera crews, etc. So the next way, so once they solidify that they can technically put half the teams in one location, half in another, then they need to figure out how do you get the players there, and then what tests are available. And that's
the key, right?
And that's what they ran into in Germany. That was the red tape to start this. Apparently, this would have happened 2 weeks before, but there's a shortage of tests. And they're going, as much as we need this in the economy, you can't take 10,000 tests to make sure these players are safe during their ramp-up period when we need them for the general public. So until testing becomes, until it's a swab or something that's like instant result, that's going to be a sticky point.
Right. And can you imagine Kuznetsov in New Hampshire for like a month? He'll be dying.
He might do all the blow.
Can you get blow on Amazon to New Hampshire?
he'll be having he'll be like Prohibition, dude. He'll be having trucks smuggling down from Canada.
It says CCM on the edge of the.
Didn't some lady get busted because she couldn't get enough of her own stuff she's in her Maryland dispensary? So she went to Pennsylvania and got busted with 20 pounds, and she was trying to claim it was just for her use during the quarantine.
That's great.
Yeah, that gives new meaning to stockpiling. Yeah, that's impressive.
That's extremely impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I have a great turning circle out here, so we're gonna have turning circle happy hours.
Nice.
That's the way it's gonna be because 10 people, and then everybody's more than 6 feet away.
Yeah.
My neighbors, I'm sure, will make citizens arrests, but
probably
whatever.
Your wife might.
Yeah, I would love to see a citizen's arrest in Safeway. That would just make my day.
First of all, if all 6 people of this listening to this podcast, if you ever criticize me going down the wrong way in a Safeway, I will punch you in the face. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care how old you are. I'll punch you square in the face and say, "My name is Jeremy." I have a mask on. You can't fucking see shit anyway. What
gets me is with everybody freaked out about the proper 6 feet distancing and the masks and everything else, why would anyone approach anyone else for anything at this point?
I know.
If I'm going down the wrong way in the aisle, you can laugh at me, you can take a picture, you can put it on Instagram. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. But don't come near me because I will.
I'll lose my shit. I mean, I'm on edge, man.
That's right.
You know? And if you're gonna be like the community policer, people go to Safeway just to bitch at people not following the rules.
It's unbelievable.
It drives me fucking crazy. I'm not walking. If my item is a third of the way down the aisle, I'm not walking around. Fuck you all.
There's got to be practicality to it in that way.
Especially and there's nobody there. Like if there's somebody there, exactly. Like the same, if there's nobody, I'm going down the wrong. I'm just
picturing like a Seinfeld episode. I'm picturing like Costanza knocking over little old ladies as he's trying to get to the last can of tuna.
Don't even approach me. If you see a chubby guy walking down the aisle the wrong way to get Diet Dr. Pepper and you approach me, I'm knocking you fucking out. Especially if you're old because you'll get knocked out and I'll say,
looks like you have a decent stash. This will get you through the weekend.
That is my heroin. I need that. Holly said, we got a lot of that. Like, no, we don't have enough. It's like you can never have enough. It's like toilet paper.
Toilet paper. We need Diet Dr. Pepper, goddammit.
The toilet paper craze is hilarious.
That is hysterical.
Morons.
Like, did anybody know this isn't a GI disease?
Like in a very rare instance, yeah. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I made the statement. Obviously, I guess not on the pod because we haven't been talking. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't make you poop more. So I don't know. Anyway,
by the way, we sound a lot better in this area than we do downstairs.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, once it gets uploaded.
To all 6 people listening, Mitch, let us know how we sound.
Actually, I've gotten a bunch of texts from buddies. They're like, "Are you going to drop another one?" I'm like, "Yes, we will."
Well, once the playoffs, assuming the playoffs start, we'll be in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I like the plan of doing another one of these next week post draft, just to kind of see where everything shook out.
Right.
And then hopefully by that point, I mean, shit's moving fast. As crazy as this is, it was only 4 weeks ago that they pulled the plug on everything.
Well, the minute things start downturning, there's going to be momentum for
exactly right.
Stuff done.
And again, it's not going to be anything like what we were all used to. No. We're not going to meet up at Shady Grove and head on down for the Caps game in any time in the near future. As much as that pains me to say it, that's just the reality of the situation. Tailgating this fall at Maryland games, right now, gun to my head, I don't see how it happens.
I'd be shocked if it happens.
I don't either. But they have to play. Those TV contracts.
They've got to.
Those TV contracts pay the bills.
Correct. Well, no more college game day. I mean, fuck.
No more Jay Billis. Maybe he could just be president.
You've been championing that for a while, and I can't disagree with you. I think guy makes a shit ton of sense when he talks.
He does. Which
puts him ahead of the other 600 politicians we have in this country.
I hate them all. I hate them all, man.
I hate them all equally.
I do. Either side of the aisle. No use for them.
No, if you put them all in a bag and shake them up and drop them out.
With the exception of Governor Hogan.
Hogan's been great.
Hogan's the fucking man.
When Hogan talks, I listen, and I say, okay, we'll do that. Yeah. I agree with that, because that guy's the man.
And doesn't he inspire confidence?
Yes.
Even if it's a negative tone, he's like, hey, this is not going to be a rosy picture, but bear with me. You listen anyway, because you're like, okay, this guy's making sense. What a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I wish I'd elect him for 4 more terms.
Oh, easily.
Let's just do it.
Easily.
But I'm in.
Yeah. But until then, maybe one of us needs to emerge as a viable candidate.
Until then, all I have is the draft and Netflix.
Netflix has been amazing. If you guys, any listeners out there, any of you guys, I know I am the one like hardcore soccer fan. However, if you have Amazon Prime, or if you can get videos on Prime, there's a special on Leeds United. They're in the championship division, and it's a little like Hard Knocks.
Nice.
They go through an entire season with them back in 2018 as they're trying to get up. Fucking awesome.
Is it better than Sunderland on Netflix?
Yes, because Sunderland Till I Die. Have you watched it yet?
I've maybe one episode.
Don't. They don't. Their trajectory is not in the right direction. That is about as proud a club as there is in the world, and they are now in tier 3.
Okay, so it's watching the downfall of a culture.
It just fucking pierces your heart. I actually cried a bunch of episodes. It's awful. It's so goddamn depressing.
Right. It's like being a West Virginia fan. If that were me during West Virginia, like watching this shit.
Speaking of, real quick before we jump off, any West Virginia kids to look out for in the draft?
No.
Seriously,
none. But I will say this: there is hope, because the basketball team, one of the kids is going to get a evaluation, but Huggins said, yeah, he's coming back. That's basically how it said it. And so their entire team will be coming back, and they're going to be top 10 if they play basketball next year.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Maryland's not going to be top 10 next year.
No.
They lost a ton of I feel really bad for Turge.
I do feel bad for that. They were set up for a decent run.
Absolutely. He really paid his dues the last few years and chugged along and kept the core together. And this year they were legit good.
But that saves him.
It does.
That saves him for a long time.
You mean, like, let's say they had played the tournament and they had like a second round exit,
which is what was possible and what we all said. If he does that shit, I'm done with him. Now he can say, that was my squad. I can't, we built it up. Let me build it up again.
Right.
I think it saves him.
Because, he can say that was a Final Four team. He can say that. And I think you can't really dispute that. So.
Right.
Yeah, about 100 teams can say we were a Final Four team.
Right. But I'm saying it gives him a lifeline.
No, you're right.
It's like drafting a rookie quarterback. It gives you a lifeline.
Yep.
Well, sort of getting back to the draft for a second. So when we talk about West Virginia, their lack thereof in terms of the draft picks for them. Terps are going to have at least a couple of guys.
Oh, they're going to have a handful.
2 running backs. I'd be shocked if they don't go.
Safety.
Yes.
Brooks, is that his name?
Yeah. Antoine Brooks, absolutely.
And Keandre Jones.
Yep. So,
but I think of the running backs, so
McFarland's the highest rated player. Right?
But I'm telling you right now, Javon Leake's going to be a legit NFL running. The size of that guy, the way he runs, his game translates. McFarland, he's going to have to stay squeaky clean and healthy, and he's going to have to use his speed. He's going to have to hope he can get to the edge. But running between the tackles in the NFL is where it's at, and Leake can do that.
But look at, your McCaffreys, your Ecklers of the world.
Boom. Good call.
60, 70, 80, 100 balls out of the backfield.
Good call.
McFarland is that guy.
Yeah. No, you're right. If he gets if he's a third down back somewhere this first year, he could have like a Chris Thompson type year.
Well, selfishly, he's the Chris Thompson replacement. Yep. I would love that.
If he's there in the I could see him at the Ravens. They need a second running back.
He would be brilliant there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, let's hope that next week we have some good grades on our respective teams' drafts.
Chase Young, you get him and the other guys, you're going to get a B or a C from me.
Yep. It starts and ends with him, and then we'll see how the rest of it plays out. So, well, cool. Well, guys,
right,
I'm so glad to see you guys. So glad that we could get on here and give you a little break from the the constant mainstream bullshit and talk a little sports. And
everybody stay safe.
That's it. Stay safe.
We've got our own bullshit.
That's right. And we will see you guys next week, and we'll talk some draft post time.
Cool.
Until then, wings, beers, and tears. Peace.
Later.